I don't claim to be an expert on Turkey at all, but I am a bit of an expert on Ray Charles. And I therefore, of course, bring my thanks to the Turkish people, because when you meet Americans or people from anywhere who like the music of Ray Charles, tell them to thank a Turk. Ahmet Erdoğan, the son of Turkey's first ambassador to America, founded Atlantic Records over 60 years ago and wrote the songs Chains of Love, Sweet 16. Erdoğan also wrote a song, Mess Around, which was the first big hit that made the career of Ray Charles. Now, I hear there are some politicians in your country who, like fundamentalist politicians in America, have lots of opinions about alcohol and sex. Now, Erdogan's lyrics in the song Mess Around include the following lines, which I will attempt to dramatically interpret for you. Everybody was juiced, you can bet your soul. They did the boogie-woogie like a sturdy roll. See that girl with the diamond ring? She knows how to shake that thing. She knows how to mess around. So, this you can thank Turkey's own Ahmet Erdoğan. Ladies and gentlemen, he wrote that song. Now, Ahmet Erdoğan was chair of the American-Turkish Association and one of the most important Turkish Americans ever. But given the little dash of alcohol and sex in his lyrics, I suppose that Erdoğan might be condemned by Erdoğan. Now, maybe Ahmet Erdoğan is one of those drunks to which Prime Minister Erdoğan once referred, though, as we know, in fact, Erdoğan, when he used the term drunk, was referring to someone a little more prominent even than Ahmet Erdoğan. Now, I'm, of course, here, as an American, to lecture you all about my great knowledge about Turkey, which I, of course, got from watching the movie Midnight Express. Now, I joke about Midnight Express, but it does embody a sad truth. Most Americans have far more to learn from Turks than Turks have to learn from Americans. Americans just don't know that Turkey is more populated than Great Britain, more populated than France, a lot more populated than the Ukraine, a population equal to California, Texas, Illinois combined. Americans, as a rule, know but one language, while most Turkish people I meet know two or more. Now, we Americans, let's face it, we should get out more. We should learn something. And we should learn, perhaps, about Mehmed II, who, while reigning in the Middle Ages, welcomed innovators, artists, and welcomed Christians, Jews, to a degree far greater than Christian Europe, which was often outright violent to Jews and Muslims at that same time. America is a powerful nation, but our world leadership has not inspired others in the way that FDR and JFK once did. Therefore, Americans have much to learn from Ataturk. But sadly, again, the vast majority of Americans do not even know Ataturk's name. Now, one of America's chiefs of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, thus the head of the United States military, the late Admiral Crowe, said he knew of no other military leader who faced such challenges as Ataturk and overcame them. Unlike most Americans, Crowe knew that Ataturk handed Churchill his hat at Gallipoli, and Admiral Crowe noted that in the later Turkish War of Independence, Ataturk raised and trained an entire military from scratch, indeed creating on the fly the industry to support that military, then succeeded in gaining independence against multiple Western powers. But it is Ataturk's actions off the battlefield that could be most instructive to Americans were we to actually study it. Ataturk said to the many Australians and New Zealanders and of the many New Zealanders and Australians who died in Turkey under British command, quote, "After having lost their lives in this land, they have become our sons as well. Contrast Ataturk's noble olive branch offered to Australians and New Zealanders with Prime Minister Erdoğan's failure to even acknowledge the death of Turkey's own Barkan Elwan, killed by Erdoğan's own police. Now, I know that you know the history of Ataturk, but American fundamentalists, the religious fundamentalists, the many American theocratic politicians whom I write about in my book could learn from the founder of the Republic, because it was Ataturk who separated religion from state, gave women voting rights early, granted equal marriage rights, dramatically increased literacy, with compulsory secular education, instituted civil law, and in so many ways directly defied religious conservatives in a way that should be instructional in America as our separation of religion and state crumbles before us. Americans can learn from Ataturk, who said, and I quote, "Freedom and independence are my character, and I wish it to be the character of my people and our nation." Now, that sounds like a perfect tweet, don't you think? And you know, there are some who say Twitter mitter. But Ataturk said freedom and independence. And it just so happens that I have his quote ready for you to tweet right now. So please, take out your phone. And you can retweet it. There is my Twitter handle right there. We tweeted this quote last week in Ankara without the permission of Erdoğan, and we do not seek his permission now. My Twitter handle is Sean Fairclough. Let's please retweet Ataturk's words in memory of Barkan Elwan, who lost his life. Now, was Ataturk perfect? No. Should Ataturk be worshipped like a god? No. Did Ataturk do some things that were perhaps wrong? Yes. But we are in the 21st century. We are allowed to see Ataturk realistically while still retaining so much of what he did that was valuable. When Ataturk was asked to be sultan, Ataturk rejected it and instead led this nation to a secular, civil society. By contrast, today Turkey has a prime minister who seems to want to be a modern sultan, a prime minister who dismisses Ataturk himself as a drunk. Dismiss Ataturk as a drunk? Now, might that be an insult to the nation of Turkey? And as you know, Article 301 in Turkish law prohibits insulting the nation of Turkey. Now, proper constitutional principles of free speech would strike down such a law. But in keeping with the spirit of freedom and independence, let us simply ask some questions. Has Mr. Erdoğan insulted the nation of Turkey by tear gassing his own people, even mixing different chemicals so the tear gas antidotes are difficult to use? Does Erdoğan insult the nation of Turkey when his police block ambulances seeking to help 500 citizens hurt by Erdoğan's police? Does Erdoğan insult the nation of Turkey when he makes Turkey known as the world leader in arresting journalists? Does Erdoğan insult the nation of Turkey when he seeks to regulate when people can and cannot kiss based on his religious views? Does Erdoğan insult the nation of Turkey when his police shoot citizens in the face with tear gas canisters? Does Erdoğan insult the nation of Turkey when he says that women should not enter politics because it is against nature? Does Erdoğan insult the nation of Turkey when there is one hospital for every 60,000 Turkish citizens and yet a mosque for every 350 Turkish citizens, and the mosques get taxpayer money? Does Erdoğan insult the nation of Turkey when he waves off the unjust, religiously biased arrest of the great composer Fazıl Say by saying, "Do not waste our time with such matters"? Does Erdoğan insult the nation of Turkey when he fires water cannon at his own people, water cannon laced with chemicals that burn the skin? Does Erdoğan insult the nation of Turkey when he refers to citizens seeking human rights as looters? Does Erdoğan insult the nation of Turkey when he says, quote, "Twitter mitter, I don't care at all. Everyone will see how powerful the state is"? Shutting down YouTube, shutting down Twitter. Where is the secular freedom and independence on which this nation was founded? Erdoğan labels those who seek freedom and justice and those who seek protection of minority rights as the losers' lobby. Well, if human rights protesters are the losers' lobby, that lobby would include Turkish writer Nazim Hikmet, who wrote poems known the world over as he battled for human rights. Our lobby would include Abdi İpekçi, a journalist who actually thought journalism should not be controlled by government and that religion should be separate from state. That lobby would include Erdal İnönü, internationally recognized physicist and an honest politician. See, they do exist. Indeed, what Erdoğan calls the losers' lobby would include Ataturk himself. So we must ask, what kind of nation does Turkey want to build in the future? Is it the kind of nation Ataturk sought when he said, and I quote, "We do not consider our principles as dogmas contained in the books that are said to come from heaven. We derive our inspiration not from heaven or from an unseen world, but directly from life." What will Turkey offer its children? For a child named Barkın Elvan, there will be no future. Americans need to know. Indeed, with this speech on YouTube, I intend to tell them that Erdoğan's police ended Barkın Elvan's future when they shot this boy with a gas canister while he was getting bread for his family. Americans need to know that Erdoğan did not even have the decency to acknowledge this boy's death and the horrid loss to his family until he blamed the boy's mother for allowing his funeral to become a protest. The fight for justice need not be restricted by national boundaries. I pledge to you that I am going back to America to speak to a large crowd with Richard Dawkins a week from now. And I will speak of your struggle because it should be our struggle. Let us all. Let us all salute those, including some in this room, who braved tear gas, who braved water cannons, and did so for justice and civil rights and secularism and minority rights. I've met so many good friends here in Turkey. A heroic dentist risking water cannons, a heroic science student facing tear gas, a heroic poet and mother tear-gassed 35 times, a heroic couple, experts in Turkish politics and world human rights, who put their principles on the line, who got out there by joining the protest. Every American schoolchild knows this picture of racists fire-hosing these American civil rights heroes a half-century ago. And they are indeed great American heroes. But to me, also, the friends I have made in Turkey, those who have protested for civil, secular government in our time, you are my heroes, and you are heroes to all those who love freedom anywhere in the world. Some Americans in our time often brag about their freedom in their gas-guzzling SUVs while stopping at McDonald's on their way to Walmart to buy an automatic weapon that they do not need. Sounds so very, very brave, doesn't it? When you here, are truly in a heroic struggle for freedom, and I recognize that struggle is very difficult. When our Jack Kennedy, more than a half-century ago, saw a racist spraying civil rights heroes with fire hoses, he went on TV that night and called for a civil rights law. When Erdoğan saw this picture, he knew about it because he had planned it. Erdoğan insults the nation of Turkey. He insults human rights worldwide. So, when I pose a question to you, I pose it humbly, because as an American, I look up to you who have protested and taken real risks for freedom. I would fully understand if young people chose to leave the injustices of Erdoğan and leave it behind. I would welcome you warmly to America. But I hope some brave young people make the choice that the scientific method, that compassion, that reason are worthy of your candidacy for public office in Turkey. If you are dissatisfied with the politicians available to you now, then become an honorable, secular politician like Erdal İnönü. Become an honorable, secular politician like Bülent Ecevit. Become a secular politician like Ataturk. And yes, there are legitimate criticisms of authoritarianism in Turkey that are not related to Erdoğan. There are legitimate criticisms of terror tactics that are not related to Erdoğan. There are legitimate criticisms of leadership in the past. But in the present, in the light of this last election, the cause of secular, honest government demands a focus on the future, in which the opposition forces truly reach out to each other and unite for a better Turkey. Young people, old people, middle-aged people, please become a campaign organizer or a journalist or a poet or a scientist who speaks out publicly for freedom and secularism and justice, or become a candidate for office yourself. I will go back and call upon Americans to heed your call so that we might all, wherever we are in this globe, live by these words. Freedom and independence are my character, and I wish it to be the character of my people and our nation. We tweeted these words, Ataturk's words, in the memory of Barkan Elvan. Barkan Elvan's death reminds us of Nazim Hikmet's great Turkish poem that is transformed into a folk song throughout the world. I come and stand at every door. When children die, they do not grow. My hair was scorched by swirling flame. My eyes grew dim. My eyes grew blind. Death came and turned my bones to dust that were scattered by the wind. I ask for nothing for myself, for I am dead, for I am dead. All that I ask is that for peace you work today. You work today so that the children of this world may live and grow and laugh and play. It is really now the voice of Barkan Elvan who calls us with these poetic words. I ask for nothing for myself, for I am dead, for I am dead. All that I ask is that for peace you work today. You work today so that the children of this world may live and grow and laugh and play. It is the singers of Turkey, it is the poets of Turkey, it is the scientists of Turkey, the freedom fighters of Turkey who can be and should be the heroes of Americans and all freedom-loving people throughout the world. And all of Erdoğan's water cannons, all of Erdoğan's gas canisters, all of Erdoğan's plastic bullets, all of Erdoğan's many unjust insults to the nation of Turkey will only make stronger our international call for a government that is secular, a government that is honest, a government that is just. If we too are arrest those who insult the nation of Turkey, then it is surely Erdoğan who must be arrested first. Let us unite in the cause of secularism. Thank you very much.